You did not stop here by accident. Out of everything competing for your attention right now, out of every scroll and every distraction, and every noise pulling at you from every direction, something inside you went quiet for a moment and led you exactly here. That was not random. That was not coincidence. The universe does not make errors that precise. And if you are being honest with yourself, you already know what this is about. You already know his face. You already know the name that appeared somewhere in the back of your mind the moment you read that title. You did not even have to think. It simply arrived the way it always does, quietly, without permission, without warning. There's a man in your life, or on the edges of it, who has never quite said what you both always known. He is not cold. He is not indifferent. He is not someone who does not feel. In fact, the truth is the complete opposite. This man feels so deeply, so completely, so overwhelmingly, that something inside him has gone still with fear. And that fear, not his love, is what has been standing between you. You have felt it. The way he looks at you a half second too long. The way he remembers things you never thought anyone was paying attention to. The warmth he offers and then, without explanation, pulls back. You are not imagining it. You never were. This message found you today because it is time you understood exactly what is happening inside him and exactly what it means for you. There is a particular kind of ache that comes with this. And it is one of the loneliest feelings in the world because it is almost impossible to explain to someone who has not lived it. It is not the clean, sharp pain of rejection. Rejection, at least, gives you something solid to hold, something to grieve and eventually release. What you have been carrying is different. It is the weight of almost, the exhaustion of a connection that feels undeniable from where you are standing but remains unspoken, unnamed, unclaimed. Maybe you have spent nights turning the same memories over in your mind, searching for clarity. Maybe you have caught yourself mid-conversation with a friend, trying to describe him, trying to explain why this one feels different, only to find that the words never quite do it justice. Maybe you have pulled back your own feelings again and again out of dignity, out of self-protection, telling yourself to let it go, only to find that something in you simply refuses. You smiled when you needed to. You carried on. You showed up for your life with grace and with strength, even on the days when confusion sat heavy in your chest. You told yourself you were fine. And in many ways you were. You are someone who knows how to hold themselves together. But there were quiet moments, in the stillness before sleep or in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, when the thought of him arrived without invitation, and your heart did something it does not do for anyone else. That has not gone unnoticed. Not by the forces that arranged for this message to reach you today, and not by him. You are seen more completely than you know. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You are watching this channel because somewhere inside you, you have always believed that love at its deepest level is worth understanding, worth waiting for, and worth getting right. Before we go further, please take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon, and select all notifications. Every single video on this channel is crafted to shift the way you see yourself, the way you understand love, and the way you move through the connections that matter most to you. Now, let us talk about Carl Jung and what he understood about the men who love in silence. Carl Jung spent his life mapping the interior world of human beings, not the version of ourselves we present, the composed, managed, socially acceptable version, but the deeper self, the one that moves beneath the surface, the one that drives behavior in ways the conscious mind does not always understand or control. Jung called this deeper architecture the unconscious, and within it, he identified something he named the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is not darkness in a moral sense. It is simply everything a person has not yet been able to face about themselves. The fears too large to look at directly, the vulnerabilities too threatening to acknowledge, the desires so overwhelming that the mind learns to bury them rather than risk the devastation of wanting something that fully and losing it. Jung believed that the things we are most afraid to feel are the very things that end up governing us most completely, not because we are weak, but because the unconscious is extraordinarily powerful, and what we cannot face consciously does not disappear. It simply moves underground, and from there it shapes every decision, every withdrawal, every moment of silence that leaves another person confused and aching. This is what is happening with the man you are thinking about right now. He is not absent because he does not care. He is absent because he cares in a way that has activated something in his shadow. A fear so old, so deeply rooted, so tangled into the very architecture of who he is, that his mind treats love, real love, the kind you represent to him, as something to be survived rather than embraced. Jung also wrote about what he called the anima, the inner feminine image that lives inside every man, the idealized embodiment of love, depth, and soul connection that a man carries within him, often without ever fully realizing it is there. Jung believed that when a man encounters a woman who mirrors his anima, something extraordinary and terrifying happens simultaneously. He feels seen at a level he has never been seen before. And for a man who has not yet done the work of facing his shadow, that level of being seen does not feel like safety. It feels like exposure. And exposure, to a man like this, is the thing he fears most. You know exactly the man this is describing. You did not need Jung's terminology to recognize him. You have recognized him all along. He is the one who shows up fully in small moments, and then creates distance in the larger ones. He remembers the name of a song you mentioned in a passing conversation 3 months ago. He notices when something is off with you before you have said a single word. He pays attention in a way that most people never do, in a way that made you feel, early on, that this was someone genuinely rare. And then he pulls back, not cruelly, not with coldness or contempt. He pulls back the way someone pulls back from a flame, not because the warmth is unwanted, but because something inside them has decided, on a level below logic, that warmth like that is dangerous. Maybe he went quiet after a moment of genuine closeness between you. Maybe it became easier to reach and then suddenly harder. Maybe he has said things, not quite confessions, but close to them, things that lingered in the air between you, things he never fully finished, as if the sentence became too honest halfway through and he swallowed the rest of it. Maybe he watches your life from a careful distance, present enough that you know he is not gone, far enough that you cannot quite reach him. He is consistent in one thing only, and that one thing is this. Wherever you are, some part of his attention is already there. He is not left. He is not over it. He is not indifferent. He is standing at the edge of something that terrifies him, and he is about to step forward. Now we arrive at the part you have been waiting to understand, the part that will finally make sense of everything that has confused you, everything that has kept you up at night, everything that made you question what was real and what you were simply hoping for. His fear is not of you. Read that again and let it settle. His fear is not of you. It is not of your personality or your presence or the love you carry. It is not that he has looked at you clearly and found something lacking. It is not that he weighed what you offered and decided it was not enough. None of that is what is happening inside him. The truth is something far more complex and far more human than simple disinterest. His fear is of himself. Specifically, it is a fear of being fully known by someone and then losing them anyway. Jung identified this as one of the deepest wounds a person can carry into adulthood, when someone, usually in early life, opened themselves completely, gave everything, allowed themselves to be entirely seen, and then experience abandonment or rejection at that exposed and vulnerable moment. The unconscious mind draws a conclusion it will spend decades defending. The conclusion is this: to be fully known is to be fully at risk, and that risk is not survivable a second time. So the man who loves you silently has built something, not out of cruelty, not out of manipulation, but out of survival instinct so old he cannot even identify it consciously. He has built a careful distance between his feelings and their full expression. He lets himself get close enough to feel the warmth of what exists between you, and then something internal, automatic, ancient, pulls him back before he can be completely seen. He does not do this because you are not worth the risk. He does this because to him, in the language of his unconscious, you are the greatest risk he has ever stood in front of. Ordinary things do not frighten people like this. Only the things that matter enormously trigger that depth of retreat. His silence is not absence. His silence is the sound of a man standing at the edge of the most important decision of his life, paralyzed not by a lack of love, but by an excess of it, and a terror of what losing it would do to him. He loves you, and that love is exactly what frightens him most. There are things he does that you will never see, moments that happen in the privacy of his own life, in the quiet of his own mind, that he would never admit to and may not even fully admit to himself. But they are happening, and when you hear them, something in you will recognize them as true. He picks up his phone to message you and puts it back down. Not once, many times. He gets as far as opening the conversation, sometimes as far as beginning a sentence, and then something stops him. Not indifference. The opposite. The message feels too honest, too revealing, too much like stepping out from behind a careful wall he has constructed. And so he closes it and sits with the weight of what he did not say. He pauses on your name when he encounters it, on his phone, in a conversation, in a memory that arrives without warning. There is a half second, maybe longer, where everything else goes quiet, and it is only that. Only your name and everything it carries for him. He replays specific moments between you, not grand gestures or dramatic scenes, small ones. The specific way you laughed at something he said, a moment where you looked at him and he felt, with a certainty that unsettled him, that you actually saw him, not the version he presents to the world. Him. And that memory does not fade the way other memories do. It stays vivid. It stays close. He compares. Without meaning to, without wanting to, he finds himself holding other connections up against what he feels with you and finding them hollow in comparison. Not because he is searching for reasons to love you, but because the contrast is simply there and he cannot make it disappear. He thinks about what he would say if he were not afraid. He has had that conversation with you in his mind more times than you would believe. He has said everything in that imagined space, every honest and terrifying thing. He just has not found the courage to say it out loud yet. If what you are hearing right now is resonating somewhere deep inside you, if something in these words is confirming what your heart has quietly known all along, then you are not guided to this video by accident. This channel exists for exactly this moment. For the woman who loves with depth and deserves to understand a love being held silently in return. Please subscribe right now if you have not already. Hit the bell and choose all notifications, because every video on this channel carries a message that was meant to find you. Do not let the next one pass you by. Now let us talk about why you, specifically, are the one he cannot forget. Jung wrote that the anima, the deep feminine image carried inside every man, is not simply an idea of beauty or attraction. It is something far more specific and far more powerful than that. It is the image of the woman who makes a man feel, perhaps for the first time in his life, that he is capable of being both fully known and fully loved in the same moment. Not loved despite who he is, loved because of it, including the parts he has never shown anyone. You are that for him, and that is not a small thing. That is, in the language of Jungian psychology, one of the rarest and most significant encounters a human being can have. Think about what you have brought to this connection. You did not love him carelessly or conditionally. You did not offer him a surface version of yourself and expect the same in return. You saw something in him that others walked past. You paid attention not to the image he projected, but to the person moving beneath it. You responded to his depth with depth of your own. And in doing so, you became the most dangerous and the most precious thing in his interior world simultaneously. You are not someone he can rationalize away. He has tried. In the moments where the fear has been loudest, he has likely attempted to find reasons to minimize what he feels, to tell himself it is not as significant as it seems, to remind himself of practical barriers or timing or circumstance. And every time he has tried, something in him has refused to cooperate. Because what he feels when it comes to you does not respond to logic. It responds only to truth. And the truth is that you have reached a place in him that no rationalization can touch. You are also rare in a way that he recognizes, even if he cannot articulate it. The patience you have carried in this situation alone speaks to the quality of your character. The fact that you are not hardened, have not become bitter, have not weaponized your confusion into cruelty, tells its own story about who you are. He sees that. Men like him, men who observe more than they speak, who feel more than they express, notice everything. And what he has noticed about you has only deepened what he cannot bring himself to say out loud. There's a shift beginning in him right now. Something has been loosening beneath the surface of his carefully maintained distance. The fear is still there, but it is beginning to compete with something stronger. with the growing unbearability of a life in which he continues to love you silently, while the possibility of something real remains unclaimed between you. Jung believed that a man cannot outrun his anima indefinitely, that the soul will always move toward what it recognizes as its own, that the unconscious, however defended, cannot permanently override what is true. What is true is that he loves you, and the truth eventually always finds its way forward. Something is already moving, not in the future, not in some distant possibility you have to wait and hope for. Right now, beneath the surface of everything that has appeared still and unchanged between you, something has already begun to shift inside him, and the reason it has begun is not accidental. It is directly connected to you, to a choice you made, perhaps without even fully realizing the power it carried. At some point you stopped reaching first. You stopped making yourself smaller to fit into the space he was willing to offer. You stopped explaining yourself, justify your feelings, or waiting by the edges of his life hoping he would eventually wave you closer. Whether it was a conscious decision or simply the quiet exhaustion of a woman who finally chose her own peace over the uncertainty, you stepped back, and that movement, that single dignified withdrawal, has done something to him that nothing else could have. It disturbed him deeply. Jung wrote about this with extraordinary precision. He understood that the human psyche does not respond to pursuit the way we imagine it should. Pursuit, however loving, however genuine, allows a fearful person to remain exactly where they are. It gives them the luxury of the connection, without requiring them to risk anything to keep it. But absence, real absence, the kind that comes from a woman who has finally redirected her energy toward her own wholeness, removes that luxury entirely. Suddenly the distance he created is no longer comfortable. Suddenly it feels less like protection and more like loss. He has noticed the shift in your energy has not escaped him. Men like this, men who have built their entire emotional architecture around careful observation, notice everything. He has felt the change in the temperature of your presence, the way you have become less available, not out of games or strategy, but out of genuine self-respect. And it has unsettled something in him at a level that his defenses were not prepared for. The fear is still present, but something new has entered the equation, something that the fear is now being forced to compete with, and that something is the very real and very rising terror of a different kind. Not the fear of being known and losing you, but the fear of never having been brave enough to try, and losing you to that cowardice instead. That second fear is louder now, and it is winning. This is the part where you must listen very carefully, because what you do in this period matters enormously. Not for him, for you. Everything that follows is about protecting the energy you have reclaimed and continuing to move in the direction of your own wholeness regardless of what he decides. And when he decides it, do not chase. This cannot be said with enough gentleness and enough firmness at the same time. Do not reach back toward him in a moment of weakness, not with a late-night message, not with a casual question designed to reopen a door, not with a gesture calculated to remind him you are still there. He knows you are still there. Your silence is not invisibility. It is power. And the moment you break out of anxiety, rather than genuine desire, you hand back everything you have quietly reclaimed. Do not shrink. There will be moments, particularly as you begin to feel his energy shifting back toward you, where the old instinct will arise. The instinct to make yourself easier, less quieter, more convenient. Resist it completely. The version of you that he is being called toward is not a smaller version. It is the full, grounded, self-possessed woman you are becoming. That is what has disturbed him. That is what he is moving toward. Do not take it away from him by retreating into smallness. Jung called this process individuation, the ongoing journey of becoming more fully yourself. And the extraordinary truth he uncovered is that when one person in a connection commits genuinely to their own individuation, it creates an almost irresistible pull on the other. Your growth is not separate from this situation. It is the very engine driving it forward. Keep choosing peace over the ache of uncertainty. Keep investing in the life that makes you feel whole. Keep showing up for yourself with the same devotion you have always shown up for others, not as a tactic, not as performance, but because you deserve it entirely and independently of what he chooses. And trust that what is genuinely meant for you will always find its way to where you are standing. There is a moment coming. You do not know exactly when. It will not announce itself in advance or arrive with ceremony. It will come quietly, the way the most significant things always do, in an ordinary moment that suddenly becomes extraordinary because of what is finally said inside it. He will reach out, not with something casual or convenient, with something real, the kind of message or the kind of moment where you will feel immediately that the careful wall has come down, that he has made a decision somewhere in the depths of himself, and this is the first word of it reaching the surface. And when that moment comes, you will know, not because of what he says exactly, but because of the feeling underneath it, the feeling of something long held finally being released. And what follows that moment will be different from everything that came before it, because of love that has been chosen consciously, that has walked through fear and come out the other side of it, carries a quality that cannot be manufactured or rushed. It carries depth. It carries a particular safety of being loved by someone who had every reason to stay hidden and chose you anyway. He will be present in ways he has never allowed himself to be before. The warmth you always sense beneath the surface will no longer need a wall around it. He will say your name like it means something, because to him it always has, and he will finally be free to stop pretending otherwise. He will show up not just in the easy moments, but in the ones that require something of him, and he will do it willingly, even gratefully, because he will understand by then what the alternative felt like. Your chest will feel different when he is near, not the aching, uncertain tightness of almost love, something warmer and steadier and more certain, the feeling of a door that was always supposed to open, finally opening. This love is not behind you. It is not lost. It is not a wound without resolution. It is approaching, and it is more than worth the wait. You are not a woman who is waiting. You are a woman who is becoming. And there is an enormous difference between those two things. Waiting is passive, anxious, dependent on another person's timeline. Becoming is active, expansive, entirely your own. You are not standing still hoping he will arrive. You are moving forward into the fullest version of yourself. And that movement is both your healing and your greatest power. You are not easy to forget. You are never easy to forget. The love you carry is not ordinary and has never been wasted, not a single drop of it, because everything you have felt and survived and grown through has brought you to exactly this point, to this clarity, to this strength, to the version of you that real love will finally be able to meet. Carl Jung believed that what belongs to you cannot be kept from you indefinitely, that the soul moves toward truth the way water moves toward the sea, steadily, inevitably, without force. Trust that. Trust yourself. And please, if this channel is giving you something today, subscribe right now, hit the bell, and select all notifications. Your story is not over. It is only just beginning.